Weather.
It's such a nice day.
Yes, it is.
It looks like it may rain soon.
Yes, and I hope that it does.
Why is that?
I really love how rain clears the air.
Me too. It always smells so fresh after it rains.
Yes, but I love the night air after it rains.
Really? Why is it?
Because you can see the stars perfectly.
I really hope it rains today.
Yes, me too.
I want to go to the beach this weekend.
What's the weather going to be like?
I heard that it's going to be warm this weekend.
Is it going to be perfect beach weather?
I believe so.
Good. I hope it doesn't cool off this weekend.
I really want to go to the beach.
But you know that California weather is really unpredictable.
You're right. 1 minute it's hot, and then the next minute it's cold.
I really wish the weather would just stay the same.
I do too. That way we can have our activities planned ahead of time.
Yes. That would make things a lot easier.
I would like to take a trip to the beach this weekend.
A trip to the beach would be fun. How is the weather going to be?
The forecast says that it will be warm on the weekend.
So, do you think it'll be perfect weather for the beach?
It sounds like it will be.
I really hope it doesn't get cold. The weather in California is unpredictable, so you never know.
That is true. The weather is constantly changing.
It would be nice if the weather would never change.
That would be great. Then we could plan things sooner.
True. Predictable weather would make life easier.
Good morning.
Good morning. How's you today?
Not so bad. Thank you.
Good. Apart from all this rain. It's chucking down again. Yes. It's awful. Isn't it? And it is very cold. The weather forecast said it will brighten up after lunch.
They always say that. Still, I can't complain, it's a lot warmer than back home.
Really? Where are you from?
I am from Russia.
What's the weather like in Russia now?
Freezing cold. And snowing.
Right. So this must be like summer for you.
Yes. But I do like the snow sometimes. Rainy day.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
After yesterday, I am not very well.
What happened yesterday?
I encountered heavy rain when I was going to bazaar to buy few things for cooking.
Why did you not take an umbrella with you?
Indeed, the sky was clear, and no piece of clouds was there when I left my home at noon.
How did you save yourself?
I could not save myself.
Why did you not search any shelter?
There was no building, so I could not save myself from rain and windstorm.
What did you feel when you were alone at the time?
The flashes of lightning and thundering of clouds frightened me. And I felt maybe it is last day of my life.
What you did then?
I ran to back my home without shopping.
Why did you do so?
It was the only way to save myself.
When did rain and storm stop?
The storm and rain stopped after an hour.
When did you come back to your home?
I came back after 2 hours.
Why did you come so late?
The streets were full of rainy water. The water took some time to lower its level. When the floor of streets appeared again, then I was able to go to home.
Story about a weather. We saw a flash flood one July when we were on a river trip with our kids in Westwater Canyon on the Colorado River. The day started out sunny and warm. We adjusted our life jackets and with 2 other families launched 2 rafts and a pretty green wooden boat called a dory. The morning hours were filled with swimming, water fights, and lazy floating on the brown, silty river. Around noon, we stopped for a picnic lunch. As usual, the kids gathered to make mud castles on the shore. Clouds gathered as well in the sky overhead, and thunder rumbled along the beautiful red canyon walls. Such storms are common in western Colorado on summer afternoons. But this one became something to remember. First, we felt the sting of marble-sized hailstones on our skin, especially the tops of our bare feet. We huddled together beneath the few shrubs growing on the river bank. Next, the rain came down heavily for about a half hour. We looked up in wonder as the dry canyon walls all around us began to stream with long silver waterfalls. In time, the rain tapered off a little and we got back in the boats. We needed to float downstream and ride the rapids to reach our campsite. And what a sight we saw! The red sandstone cliffs gave way to black basalt rocks. These cliffs seemed to have tomato sauce pouring over them, reaching all the way down to the river. Little side canyons, almost always bone dry, were flash flooding, releasing jets of red water into the river as we floated by. The clear rainwater was turning bright red as it picked up mud, washed from sandstone layers high above the black cliffs. These tomato sauce streams began to turn the river red, too. We watched in wonder, knowing we would be sharing memories of these sights forever. The rapid turned out to be a wild ride as usual, but it was all the more exciting because of its color. But quickly the rapids were behind us. The sun appeared and a rainbow bridged from canyon rim to rim. How good the sunshine felt on our skin as we removed our rain jackets. With the campsite just around the next river bend. Over supper, people of all ages recalled details of what we had seen. More stories followed of other river trips, full of surprises. As we laid out our sleeping bags and snuggled up under the stars, we saw a great blue heron roosting on a cliff above us. We thinking about the storm and flash flood it saw the day. Bad weather story. I was 10 years old in September of 1961 when a storm began to form out in the Gulf of Mexico. The storm grew into a Category 5 hurricane. They named it Carla. We lived in a Houston neighborhood with small homes and ditches running alongside the streets. In those days people did not evacuate to flee storms, nor did they board up the homes. They stayed put. My parents decided to throw a hurricane party for the adults, and while they were inside playing card, the kids were outside running wild. It was eerie playing outdoors while the clouds grew dark and swirly. I remember it looked like night. In the middle of the afternoon, it began to rain. The wind began to howl and something in the air made us feel wild and free. We waded in the ditches trying to catch crawfish. But when the lightning began to strike dangerously close to the crackle of thunder, my mother called us in. We were drenched. Despite the edge of fear in the air, it was exciting and we all remained in high spirits. I was mesmerized by what the storm was doing outside. I remember watching out of our picture window. The wind caused the trees and bushes to bend over in funny ways I'd never seen before. The power lines were swinging around. The ditches flooded, then the roads, and then the yards. I recall seeing tiny, brightly colored frogs plastered on the window I was looking through. Was it raining frogs? Or were the frogs just looking for an escape from the soaked ground? After some time, everything became still and silent. Even the birds were quiet. The winds calmed. The clouds parted and the sun appeared. The eye of the hurricane was over Houston. We ran outside and I looked up to see blue sky. After about an hour, the clouds darkened and the wind and rain returned. We went back inside and watched the second half of the storm. We went to bed with the rain beating on the roof and the wind howling. The next morning we awoke to a different world. The sun was shining and the birds were chirping. Tree limbs were down everywhere and the roads and yards had become a giant lake. Hurricane Carla had left her mark on the landscape and our lives. The best part was that everyone was safe and the kids got a bonus 3 days off from school. In the early morning of July 5, 1973, the best fireworks show I have ever seen occurred near my Long Island home. Less than 10 hours after the 4th of July fireworks had ended. On Long Island, the scariest part of a thunderstorm is lightning. Frequent, close lightning strikes were what I loved and feared. And the day I was to get a show I'd remember for the rest of my life. That morning, the voice on the weather radio warned about a line of strong thunderstorms moving east across New York City and onto Long Island. Judging from the crackle of the static on the radio, there was a lot of lightning traveling with these storms. The weather radar on the early morning news showed a line of gray-white blobs representing the thunderstorms. The brightest white blobs were the strongest storm cells. Were the brightest blobs headed my way? I was hopeful because I liked incredible storms. But I also liked gardening, and I knew I only had about an hour to tend to my garden outside before the storm would chase me indoors. By 6:30 a.m. my dad had left for the Great South Bay, where he earned money during the summer as a clam digger. I was harvesting peas and picking up bottle rocket remnants that had fallen into the garden the previous night. Through the haze of the humid morning I could see dark gray clouds appearing on the west and northwest horizon. I was happy. I moved to the front yard rock garden where I had a better view of the approaching thunderstorms. Shortly before 7 a.m., the western sky was dark and deep booms rumbled through the air. This was really going to be a good one. Within 5 minutes I began to see detail in the low, charcoal-colored cloud that was moving out ahead of the most intense part of the thunderstorm. The thunder had grown louder and sharper. At 7:10 a.m. the angry dark cloud was almost upon me. Just beyond the low-hanging dark cloud I could now see a slightly lighter cloud that offered a backdrop to many fat and long-lasting lightning bolts. I sat in the rock garden awestruck by the power and beauty of the show. In a place that received about 20 days per year with thunderstorms, I just didn't get enough of this. Or so I thought. By 7:20 the darkest part of the cloud was directly overhead, and the frequent dance of lightning bolts was getting quite close. Loud, crashing thunder followed less than 5 seconds after the lightning, indicating that the lightning strikes were within a mile of me. Large raindrops began to splat on the ground around me. As a breath of cool air pushed over me from the storm, I stood up and began backing toward the house, not able to take my eyes off the angry but fascinating sky. If only this could happen at least once a week, I thought. I wasn't sure what would finally chase me indoors. Rain or lightning. Then it. First there was a loud hiss that moved rapidly overhead and to my left, which was followed a split second later by a brilliant bolt of lightning into the back of the next-door neighbor's house. The explosive force of the lightning bolt nearly knocked me off my feet. I couldn't tell if my house had been hit. I turned toward the front door and paused briefly to see if the house was on fire. Another intense flash from behind was followed instantaneously by a deafening crash of thunder. I dashed inside, although my nerves were quite rattled. There was still the powerful desire to go back to the front door and watch the show. Within a minute I was sitting at the door beside my dog, Bismarck, who, unlike many dogs, enjoyed watching thunderstorms too. Heavy sheets of rain were swept along by the gusty wind. His lightning continued to hit within a mile or two of my location. After about 10 minutes, the most electrical part of the storm was off to the east and southeast, and the rain became gentle. When the storm ended, I learned that lightning damaged houses on both sides of ours and struck a clump of 3 scrub oak trees just behind the house. At the base of the trees, large cobblestones were dislodged, and 2 crows were found dead, apparently electrocuted. One of the trees dried up and died over the next few weeks. The lightning strike had caused dishes to fall from shelves and pictures to fall off walls along the back wall of the house. Half of the house had no electricity. The next-door neighbor on the other side lost a television set to the electrical surge, and 2 or 4 bulbs in a kitchen light fixture popped when the lightning struck. A few miles away at the marina, my dad had waited to set the boat into the bay when he heard the thunder. He saw several wet, dazed fishermen stagger back into the marina after the storm, stunned by the ferocity of the sudden squall.
Hello.
Hi Tina. It's Joe.
Hi Joe.
How's the weather there today?
It's really cold. It snowed all day and the schools closed early.
What's the temperature?
It's 30 degrees now. It was even colder this morning.
Have you heard what the weather is going to be like tomorrow?
I was watching the news a little earlier. They said it's probably going to snow tomorrow.
I really don't like the winter. I wish it were summer.
Me too. How's the weather where you are?
It's not too bad, but it's pretty cold here too. It was about 45 today and it rained this afternoon. I heard it's going to be a little warmer tomorrow. Snowing outside.
Hey. What have you been doing today?
Nothing. Just watching TV. I'm really bored. I don't have anything to do.
I don't have anything to do either. I didn't do anything today except clean my house.
I know. I was planning to go to the mall today with one of my friends, but it snowed so much we couldn't go anywhere.
I hope it snows all night because I don't want to go to school tomorrow.
Do you know anyone who has a camera? I want to take a picture of all this snow.
No. I don't know anyone who has a camera.
Have you seen Sarah today? I think she might have one.
No. She hasn't been around all day. She said she had something important to do today.
Oh. Where did she go?
Nobody knows. I called her roommate and she doesn't know either.
Cold weather.
Oh. It feels so cold this morning.
It sure is. Early this morning my car's windshield was covered with frost.
Who would have thought it could be this cold in early December? Especially in California.
I know. The temperature was 35 degrees Fahrenheit when I woke up this morning. I was freezing as soon as I got out of bed. The cold weather just hit me by surprise.
I cannot remember when it was this cold in early December.
Brace yourself for the rain this afternoon. Cold and wet. Yuck.
It is going to rain this afternoon.
Not only this afternoon, but also the rest of the week.
Oh. It is going to be miserable. I have a full class schedule today and tomorrow. To walk from class to class, I will have to juggle my books and my umbrella trying not to get wet.
You carry too many books. Why don't you leave some of them in your locker?
My locker is a long way from my English classes. This is the reason why I carry all my books with me. Is it going to rain hard or just drizzle?
The news said that it would start to drizzle around noon. And then it would rain really hard by 3 o'clock.
No hope for better weather this week.
There is a slim chance of sunshine by Saturday. However, it will be foggy, windy, and rainy before the sun comes out this weekend.
I am glad that it rains even though I do not like rainy weather. We have a very dry season so far this year.
Yes. I can hardly remember when it rained last time. Well, as long as there is no thunder or lightning, I can bear it.
We rarely have thunder or lightning in California.
We are very lucky that California has one of the best weather conditions in America. When it is hot, it is not humid. When it rains, there is no thunder or lightning. And the cold weather during the winter season is quite mild compared to the weather of the other states.
Yes. We are lucky. However, sometimes when I look at the Christmas pictures, I just wish we had some snow. It looks so pretty when everything is covered by a blanket of pure white snow.
Living in Southern California all my life, I have never seen snow. I would not mind playing in the snow once in a while.
Yes. It would be fun to make a snowman or go skiing.
We have never seen snow. We have never made a snowman. And we have never gone skiing. We better do something about this.
Maybe we should plan a trip to Aspen, Colorado during winter break. I heard that the skiing season is fantastic up there.
I don't think we can afford a trip to Aspen. It is very expensive up there.
I am just wishing. I know what I will be doing during winter break. I will be working very hard to save money for a new car.
With the cars that we drive, it is better that we live in a place where there is no snow.
You are right. We are better off with no snow. Okay. I need to go.
Okay. See you later.
Tornadoes on the soccer field.
It was a hot, steamy day for an afternoon soccer game. I was 10 years old and forgot to bring my soccer shoes along. So the coach made me play goalie in sandals. My team was ahead by a few goals. From where I stood in the net, bored and sweating, I had a perfect view of thunderclouds swirling on the horizon. The game was held at the National Sports Center in Blaine, Minnesota, with nearly 40 fields. The National Sports Center is the largest collection of soccer fields in the country. Today it has athletic facilities and offices. But back then it was a flat expanse of plains with nothing but a few parking lots and drainage ditches. The longer the game went on, the darker the sky got. Thunderstorms can blow in quickly on summer days in southern Minnesota. But even so, we were surprised at how soon the first raindrops fell. By halftime it was pouring and lightning strikes were close enough to our field that the referee temporarily stopped the game. I was huddling with my teammates in a canvas tent by the side of the field, waiting for the storm to pass when we saw a funnel forming at the bottom of the clouds. Before we realized what was happening, a tornado was spiraling down from the sky, spinning tight and fast toward the ground. The tornado touched down on the soccer field. A few miles away, another twister was also dropping from the clouds. A third twister would appear shortly in the distance over the town of Blaine. In a flurry of flying lawn chairs, wet blankets and soccer bags, parents grabbed their kids and ran in different directions. My family's car was several fields away, and there was no good shelter nearby and no time to think. We ran to the nearest drainage ditch. We crouched just above the ditch water, worried about lightning strikes, and watched the tornado come closer, until it was just across the field and the grass flew in its wake. I could see every detail of its twisting body. We ran across the next field and ducked into another ditch. We ran from ditch to ditch 3 times, planning our routes and sprinting through the wind. I remember being scared, but also thinking that the 3 tornadoes were the most amazing things I'd ever seen. In the distance we even saw debris flying at the base of the tornado over town. And then, in the same way it came, the tornado shrank and melted back into the sky into wisps of cloud. The rain stopped and the clouds loosened. The sun came out and dried our clothes as we walked to the car. Cold and tired, but happy to be safe and grateful for what we'd just seen.
The weather.
How's the weather today?
It's all right. Not too warm, not too cold.
Do you think I need a sweater?
No. Not if you're not going out for long.
Are you sure? I'm pretty cold-blooded.
Well, in the red case, you might bring a sweater along. I'm going to lunch. Is it raining yet?
Not yet, but the clouds look ominous.
Do you recommend an umbrella?
Sure. Or at least a good hat and coat.
It was raining this morning. Then it stopped and the sun came out. but the clouds were moving fast.
I know. I noticed it too when I was driving to work.
Did you bring a raincoat?
No. I don't like raincoats. I prefer a good umbrella, unless it's too windy. Hot weather.
Hello. Good to see you.
Hi. You look hot. Is it hot outside now?
Very hot. And it's humid too.
Really? It isn't usually humid at this time of year.
It's terrible. You step outside and you feel it immediately.
I guess I'm glad to be stuck at my desk then.
It's a good day to be inside.
Do you know what tomorrow's supposed to be like?
No. I haven't checked the weather yet.
I hope it's less humid.
Foggy day.
Did you see the fog this morning?
Yeah. It was really bad. I could barely see the road when I was driving in my neighborhood.
I know. I pulled over for a minute and thought about staying home for an hour. I don't like driving in the fog.
Yeah. It's no fun if you're not used to it.
It did clear up, though, during the commute.
Do you come from the north or the south?
I come from the north.
Me too. I noticed it was clearing up on the bridge.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It was much better then.
I saw that it was gone by 10 a.m. Hurricane. Did you hear about the hurricane on the East Coast?
Yeah. I heard the winds were really strong.
There was a lot of damage. I have some family in North Carolina.
Oh, were they in the area during the hurricane?
Yes. They stayed home. North Carolina gets a lot of hurricanes.
Did they lose any property or anything?
No. They didn't. But the neighbors had a large tree fall onto the fence. Everyone lost power for a few days too.
I've never been in a hurricane. I'd be scared if I heard the wind outside.
As long as the wind isn't too hard, it isn't so bad. You have to have candles ready, though.
It must be hard to be without power for a few days. The lady on the beach.
You can see a lady on the beach. She is 40 years old. She is happy. The sky is clear, not cloudy. It is windy. The wind blowing her hair. Her feet are wet. Her clothes are navy blue. Adventures in snow. One of Colorado's most powerful blizzards, the blizzard of 1982, covered the city of Denver with several feet of snow on December 24, 1982. I was 10 years old then, and delighted to be enjoying winter break from school. I remember my uncle was in town from the East Coast, and the final round of grocery shopping and preparations for the feast, and of spectacular raspberry tart, were to take place on Christmas Eve. But no one could have expected the scene we awoke to that morning. The snow had begun to fall on the evening of the 23rd, The snow fell very quickly. Each hour another inch of snow fell, building up rapidly. By the morning of the 24th, our car was buried in the driveway, and snow was piled up against the doors of the house. The wind was blowing snow into huge drifts that reached the second story of the house. The power would go out for short periods of time and then come back on. And wind chill was 30 degrees below zero. For my sisters and I, this was an adventure. For my parents, it was a bit of a nightmare. We had to get to the store, so we worked frantically to uncover the car and a path to the street. My mom and uncle carefully drove to the store and were lucky enough to find a nearby market that was open. The amount of snow increased dramatically as kids decided to dig a tunnel for the back door down a long walkway to the back of the yard. We were able to get the back door open just enough to sneak out and begin digging. First with our hands, then using garden tools. It took several hours to build this remarkable tunnel. My dad packed the snow firmly for us, to make sure that the tunnel wouldn't cave in on anyone. The tunnel kept us busy for quite some time, but we couldn't resist another adventure. Jumping off the roof into giant snowdrifts. My sisters and I snuck out of second-story window onto the garage and leapt into the huge 10-foot piles of snow on the side of the house. When my mom got word of this activity, we were promptly steered inside and got a major scolding. For my family, the blizzard was not tragic. It gave us kids the opportunity to explore one of nature's most powerful phenomena, and spend some quality time with each other. Many, however, were not so lucky, and spent that Christmas holiday without heat or enough food. Denver's blizzard of '82 forced the city to develop its first ever emergency snow removal plan, one that is still in effect today. Questions and answers. When it is winter in Spain. The months of December, January and February are the winter months in Spain. In this European nation, winter months can be very cold and dry. In Madrid, Spain, December tends to be the coldest month, on average with a minimum temperature of 32 degrees Fahrenheit and a maximum of 50 F. What is Australia like in the winter? Australia, for the most part, is a pretty warm place, even during the coldest times. Winter in Australia lasts from June to August for most of the country. December to February is summer. March to May is autumn and September to November is spring. Australia is a wonderful place to visit in winter. Do you know what the weather will be like tomorrow? The weather is supposed to be sunny and warm tomorrow. Do you know if it's going to rain tomorrow? It's supposed to rain for the next several days. Did you see the weather forecast? I didn't see the news yesterday, so I don't know what the weather is going to be like. What is the weather like in Los Angeles? Weather in Los Angeles is usually hot in the summer and mild in the winter. It never really gets that cold. What is your favorite season of the year? My favorite season of the year is spring.